First of all, Dr. Hirata is actually going to present some PowerPoint slides. We've asked him to do this because I think it's really information dense, the material he's going to present, but it's vital. It's really key to understanding the changes that are going to happen in Japan only, what, 1st of November 2014?
Later in November.
Later in November. So Dr. Hirata is going to start off with some slides, and then we're going to start discussion. So Dr. Hirata, over to you.
Sure. I asked for the change of format because we are having a change in the regulatory scheme later this year around end of November. And so I'd like to update some of the information. Okay, so please, next slide, please. And next, please. So first of all, PMDA. PMDA is an agency of the government, and we dedicated to safety of medical products to the people of Japanese citizens. And we review the data, and also we monitor the safety. And we also have a relief system, which in case of severe side effects from use of medical products such as Stevens-Johnson syndrome, we have a relief fund. Next slide, please. Japan has two regulatory authorities, and one is Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, which is the actual ministry of the government, and which plans health policy and also enforces various measures based on the law. And also they issue warning letters and licensing and etc. And the PMDA is dedicated to scientific evaluation of data, and also they inspect GMP facilities and the GCP inspection, among other things. Next slide, please. So, and this is organization PMDA, and I'm from Office of Cellular and Tissue-Based Products, which was created in 2012, 2 years ago, to promote the development of tissue and cellular-based products. And relevant to us here also is the Office of GMP QMS inspection, which monitors the facilities. Next slide, please. So today's topic I'd like to talk about is a new regulatory framework for regenerative medicine in Japan. Next slide, please. There was a law passed in May of last year, which is to promote regenerative medicine in Japan, and whose goal is to apply new drugs developed by iPS cell technology to clinical trials, which is rather peculiar, but as Keith has explained to you, Japan is quite dedicated to iPS cell technology. And I know Dr. Nakatsuji has something to say about that, but anyway. And the basic research is supported by grants from Ministry of Education, and the clinical research is supported by Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. And also industry-based development is supported by Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. So here's another triangular relationship. Japan loves triangular relationships. Anyway, and this law was passed, and in order to achieve the goal, two new law was passed last year of November, and it will take effect at the end of November this year. Next slide, please. So regenerative medicine and cell therapy in Japan. In order to talk about the change in the regulation, I think I have to introduce to you about the current regulation. And regenerative medicine and cell therapy is offered to the patients in 3 forms under current scheme. One is clinical research involving administration of human stem cells and also gene therapy under the guideline for each research, stem cell research and gene therapy research, which was put into effect in 2006. As of February this year, I think 90 protocols have been approved they are undergoing or they have finished it. But anyway, and the second form is exemplified by cancer immunotherapy, such as peptide activated dendritic cells or cytokine activated autologous lymphocytes. Those are some of those therapies are offered at specific academic institutions as advanced care, and which is partially covered as a technology in evaluation scheme. They only cover hospital fee and doctor fee, and the patient has to pay for the specific new technology. And outside of this scheme, there are lots of private practices offering similar therapies, but there's no real regulation in place, and so our government has no public statistic about how they are being conducted. And the third pattern is regenerative medical products authorized under a Pharmaceutical Affairs Act, which is a product authorization. And currently on market are two products. One is autologous cultured epidermis for severe burn, and the other is autologous cultured chondrocytes for cartilage defect in joints. And there are, I think, 6 or 7 clinical trials undergoing. And please note that I have distinguished the use of clinical research from clinical trials. When we say clinical research, they are not obligatory to perform under a GCP rule. Now, when we say clinical trials, they are conducted under GCP. So their results have different values as marketing authorization review data. Next slide, please. And this is the summary of stem cell clinical research approved in Japan. And there are 90 protocols, and only 3 of them are allogeneic in origin. Others are all autologous cells. And most frequent are autologous bone marrow mesenchymal stem cells. And another is peripheral blood stem cells. And the third frequent one is autologous oral mucosal cells, derived cells, and also autologous adipose tissue derived mesenchymal stem cells. Those are the usage of stem cell source now performed in Japan. Next slide, please. So background for need for new legislations is that current guidelines for cell therapy are not based on the law, and growing need for collaboration between medical institutions and industry from the early stage of development. So in order to promote those 2 points, new legislation was established to ensure the safety of regenerative medicine offered at hospitals, which is an act on the safety of regenerative medicine. And the second law is the updating of Pharmaceutical Affairs Act to accommodate the characteristics of regenerative medicine products, because they are cellular and tissue-based. These products should have a different framework to be evaluated. So the law was amended and renamed to be Pharmaceutical, Medical, and Device Act, PMD Act. Next slide, please. So under the new rules, regenerative medicine will be offered to the patient in 2 pathways. One on the left side is all the medical technologies using processed cells, which safety and efficacy have not yet been established, but offered at the hospitals. Those will be under the law Act on the Safety of Regenerative Medicine. And on the right side, marketed product of regenerative and cellular therapeutic products will be under the law, the Act on Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Act. And they will be take effect in the end of November. Next slide, please. So the first one, the Act on the Safety of Regenerative Medicine, it will obligate the hospitals and clinics to submit their plans or protocols to the Certified Committee of Regenerative Medicine, which is certified by the government MHLW. And also it will allow the hospital to outsource the cell processing. Currently, I don't think there is any law regulating the contract manufacturer to process the cells isolated from the patients for the medical usage. And now, under the new law, the contract manufacturing will be in regulatory process. And under the new law, cell processing facilities must be licensed or certified. Domestic facilities will be obligated to apply for licensing from MHLW, and foreign overseas facilities will be obliged to obtain a certification from PMDA's Office of GMP QMS certificate inspection. That's the new rule. Next slide, please. So the second new law is PMD Act. And it will revise the current law in order to ensure the quality and safety of drugs and medical devices. Medical devices has not been clearly stated, regulation has not been clearly stated in the current law, and it will be put in place in the new law. And also, for regenerative medical products, we will have a new category of products as a regenerative medical products, and it will include cell and tissue-derived products as well as gene therapy products. And a different time frame for approval system will be applied for these products. And I will explain more about this in the next slide, please. So under the new law, the regenerative medical products will be considered differently from other medical products because of difficulty in collection and evaluation of efficacy and safety data to regenerate for regenerative products in a short time period due to such characteristics as non-uniformity of product quality arising from heterogeneity of cell source. And there will be an expedited approval system for regenerative medicine products with a conditional time-limited marketing authorization in order to allow timely to offer the products to the patients. And also, I think it will, it's only my speculation, but it will also help companies to start with a small-scale facility to reduce their investment risk. Next slide, please. So this is the scheme. The top one is the traditional or conventional scheme of clinical trial and approval and formal marketing authorization. Even with the sponsor of regenerative medical products can apply for the upper scheme, but they can also apply for the lower scheme, which is the expedited approval with conditional time-limited authorization. And in the lower scheme, there will be a post-marketing data collection to ensure the efficacy and safety of the product. Next slide. And that's the new scheme which will be put in place in November.
Thank you very much for a very clear outline. I think that's absolutely vital because it is quite complex. To be honest, the majority of us in this room haven't had any dealings with Japan, and so to suddenly see the Japanese regulatory and reimbursement moving forward by such a huge step change is really exciting. We wish you every bit of luck with that. I'd just like you to talk about a few bits which I'd like clarification on. The impact of this new law on the clinical application of cell therapies. I mean, where do you see the major impact for Japan on this one?
Yeah, it will depend on the, I think, contract manufacturing. I think.
Contract manufacturing, okay.
Yeah, because now they are all processed in the processing facilities within their hospital with a very small scale, few staff members. And if contract manufacturing is performed in very constant manner with a very high level of quality, then it might be a benefit to the patients.
So just to clarify, so at the moment, academics doing a clinical study would have to manufacture in their hospital. They
yes.
couldn't do it. They couldn't use a contract manufacturer or company.
I'm not sure. There's no regulation. So there may be somebody in private practice doing such things, but in academic institutions, they have to do it themselves.
But this would change that, so they then could use much more robust manufacturing. And there then would be two ways forward. They could do, and I may not have got the terminology right, you need to correct me, but they can either move into a clinical trial, or they could do a proof of concept effectively, which would not be a clinical trial. Right. So they've got those two options, is that correct? Exactly. So let's just examine option one. So option one would be they could do a proof of concept, we would call it here, just a few patients. And what can they then do with the data they generate from that part?
That's the problem they are having now. So some people, some academic institutions try to start investigator-initiated clinical trials under GCPs.
Right. Okay.
Then those data can be used in application of manufacturing authorization.
So that would be supportive data they would sort of generate for their phase one.
Yes.
So under the new scheme, they would then do their. It's not, you don't call it phase one, I noticed. You call it a safety study, in fact. So
but there must be some efficacy data to support the efficacy.
And at that point, and that efficacy data could be in man from your proof of concept study, or could it be in animals?
No. It must be clinical human study, and probably some kind of surrogate markers. Okay, so surrogate markers are something that would be very, very positively looked at. And then it would be possible to apply for conditional marketing authorization at that point. Yes. So do we envisage that the numbers of patients for that safety study and stroke efficacy is larger than, say, a conventional phase one study that we might do for FDA or EMA, which tends to be a very small, less than 10 patient study? Or do you think it might be very similar? It's difficult. I think it depends on the number of patients and also the risk posed by the products.
And you, in fact, have stratified that risk with T cells at the very bottom, because I know Japan has a huge history of success and safety with T cells, and then adult stem cells, and then IPS. So that's the stratification. Yes. And then I noticed that you then use different committees of different knowledge to basically decide whether that could go forward. So I noticed for the lower ones, the T cells, that's a local committee, and then there's a sort of a specialist committee, and then MHLW for the IPS cell ones.
Cells and as a gene-modified cells.
And so my question really is, there is a lot of mixing of MHLW and your own agency's activities, rather than the sequential approach we have in Europe, which is country regulator, EMA. Yes. And so you've got this much more mixed model. Is that something which has been used already for regulation, or is this very much a new model for yourselves?
It has not been in place yet.
Right, okay. And does everybody know what their role is and how it fits together?
We are trying to put in new rules very cautiously because there will be some confusion.
Right. And if you know, the majority of people in this room are companies, and the companies are very excited about what you're doing and the opportunity to come to Japan, do they have a dialogue with yourselves or with MLHW, or is it a combined dialogue? How do they progress to get, say, is informal advice possible?
Of course, MHLW has a dialogue with manufacturer associations,
Right, okay.
and also they also have dialogue with American manufacturers associations.
Right, so
So,
ARM, for example.
ARM.
Yeah.
So those dialogues are very effective in setting up new rules.
And in fact, at the moment, am I not right in saying that the actual small print is still being written, and so we have a chance to have a dialogue with you,
Yeah.
and maybe influence that process? Is that, I mean, from what I feel, there is questions being asked both ways. I mean, Dr. Hori, for example, at MHLW, is keen to understand how we do it as well, and
Sure,
there's a sort of learning process here.
So it's a mutual learning, I think.
When we talk about this conditional marketing authorization, which I think is a great step forward, and you stressed it very strongly that it was a time limited, I think it was 7 years, I think.
7 years.
Up to 7
probably,
years.
Yes.
What data does the company have to take for that final approval?
That's a very interesting question, and it also depends on the product and the disease it treats, because of course, if there are very few patients, then there will be very small scale data produced in a fixed time frame. So, but we encourage the manufacturer to plan ahead to make a very convincing rationale to obtain good data, clinical data, to get full approval later.
So just to go back, I mean, normally, the regulators have required a series of clinical trials to test against the gold standard or a control group of some sorts that the new therapy is better and has got not only just good safety but efficacy as well. So I assume that with a conditional approval, you very much have a register, for example. Not a clinical trial. So would you be submitting your registry data at the end of the 7 years, which would be not a comparison set of data, or would you expect clinical trials to be done as well?
Well,
Sorry, I know that's a tough
Yeah.
question. Sorry.
It's a very, very difficult answer. If the product gets reimbursed by national healthcare system, then it will be very difficult to conduct a comparison study.
Correct, that's how I understand it.
Why
Why would anybody want to be in the clinical trial and be on the
Exactly.
placebo group
Right.
when you've got a therapy which is already out there? Agreed.
So we encourage the manufacturer or sponsor to consider what data they could be able to produce regarding kind of comparison group, which may not be a direct comparison, but it may be a kind of literature review and other things.
So one solution we've been discussing in the UK is to try and use the best of both regulations. And the suggestion which I originally penned was that perhaps the early phase 1 data could be generated in maybe UK or in the US or Japan, and that would be the data that would enable that conditional authorization. So could you get your conditional authorization from data, first of all, generated outside of Japan?
Probably we would like to request clinical data, including Japanese population.
So it could be a small part of the studies or a bridging bit. So let's say you did that phase 1 or safety data somewhere, in one of those 3 countries, and then apply for conditional approval. Then the product could receive reimbursement at that stage, which is good for small companies. Every company in this room would love that. And also, even Big Pharma, it's an endorsement that they're moving the product forward in the correct way. Yeah. And then if for the first couple of years the data was collected on the register, that could be come back to Europe or to the US or Canada and be used as supportive data towards a clinical trial in those countries, which could easily be conducted within the 5 years. That way, the companies would actually have clinical trials data from US, Canada, UK, Europe, which they could then present to you. And would that be persuasive for that final approval? Would that help you? Because then you would actually then have gold standard data. So could it be by working together, the companies benefit with early reimbursement and also the potential for reimbursement in Japan, a regulatory approval in Japan and reimbursement in Japan and elsewhere? Is that something which we should be working together?
First of all, reimbursement is not
regulation.
guaranteed.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
Reimbursement's
okay.
not guaranteed. Okay, sorry. But what about the regulatory
They
side?
are trying to make rules, but very, very difficult problem associated with reimbursement. So it's not, there is no mention of any possibility of assurance about reimbursement. But anyway, yes, I would like to have various effort to combine the data to ensure the efficacy and safety among many countries. But the problem will be, in that case, will be that the product quality must be very stable, so that all the data generated in different countries can be considered the same.
And I know you're very keen to have dialogue with other regulatory bodies as well, which we welcome, and I think that would be a way of getting forward. But I just wonder whether, the companies in this room are very keen to come to Japan. If they could get the best out of both systems, it would really help the whole cell therapy industry move forward and benefit patients, millions of patients all over the world. And so we're very keen to see that. We're just coming to almost to the end of this. I mean, it's been really helpful. But the new law comes into effect in, as you said, November of this year. Where, if we invite you back in a year's time, where would you expect to have gone through? Do you think a number of products will be through and in the pipeline of going through this process in a year's time?
I think there are at least 2 companies which have announced their intent to file for marketing authorization later this year of their regenerative medicine products. So in a year, there will be more than one.
So we will know where we're moving through the pipeline at that stage, because it should be very rapid. I mean, that conditional approval could be gained within almost a couple of years, probably, of the outset of starting a safety study. If you did the study in a year and followed up the patients for a year, and then how long after that data is submitted would they be able to get that conditional approval?
The review process will take just under 1 year, I think.
Right. Okay. Fine.
But please take note that we are not calling it a safety study.
Sorry. Okay. Yes.
It's very important.
So give me the correct terminology. Sorry.
It's still an efficacy study.
Still an efficacy study, but it's what we used to call a phase 1. Not phase 1-2.
Phase 1-2 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need a new name for that. We need a new name for that. But look, we wish you the very best of luck, and I know a lot of people in this room will want to talk to you after during the course of the day, and all eyes will be upon you. But you've certainly set a very high standard for the rest of the world in how to move regulation and reimbursement, albeit not guaranteed forward. So.